Eternal blessings. Back with the next video. Before we begin, some quick announcements. Again, for those that email me, reach out to me, and want to know how they can sign up for the classes that I offer. Again, Patreon. That's where you want to go. The official Primordial Chaos Patreon page at patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. That's patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3 is the way you want to go. Tier 3 gives you access to the 3 private classes I do every month on Patreon for Patreon members only. And it also gives you access to the group ritual we do together at the end of every month. If you are interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, the types of readings I do offer are telepathic demonic readings, different kinds, Lilith readings, Lucifer readings, you name it. If you're interested in shadow work readings, which is a great place to start, highly recommended if you're looking for a sense of direction, if you're not sure what it is I should be doing, I'm not sure what kind of ritual work, where do I start, where do I begin, maybe if you're a newer person, with shadow work is not for a new experience, those for everybody, but for a newer person that may be looking for a starting point, shadow work reading, deity reading to see what types of demons and spirits walk with you, Egyptian oracle readings, Santa Muerte readings. Just shoot me an email and I'll send you a list of the readings I offer with the information to book a reading. Same thing for a consultation. Please, it always speeds up the process if you let me know the days and times you're available and the time zone you are in, because again, I deal with people in the United States in all 3 time zones, and I deal with people overseas, other countries, other time zones. Okay, that speeds the process up. All right. Also, the 6th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference. We do have people now inquiring. I think we have 2 people that have signed up. We are signing up. We are registering people for the conference that is full-blown underway. So if you want to attend virtually or live and in person, which I recommend live and in person, it is a 4-day event. Meet and greet on Thursday night, which begins on October 19th. The 20th and the 21st, we have classes and workshops from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. with a group ritual both nights, followed by a group dinner afterwards and some socializing and fun and hanging out afterwards for those that want to. And then we have a question and answer class, finishes up with on the 22nd at noon to 4 p.m. 4-day event of different classes, workshops, presentations, we're gonna have a few different speakers like we do every year. Doing some of these presentations. I'll be doing a couple. I believe Raven will have Brother Kevin and some others doing presentations. All right. So you can email me again for any of the aforementioned at khnum19@gmail.com. Everything I'm saying is in the description box of all the YouTube videos here. And again, all this content again that I've been uploading and will continue to upload is available on the Primordial Chaos podcast in audio files, right? In case you want to listen to it while you're exercising, walking, driving, or just doing shit around the house or whatever. You do have that option now to go to the Primordial Chaos podcast, wherever podcasts are found. Spotify, Radio Public, Anchor.fm, pretty much anywhere with podcasts. The link is actually in the description box of this video here. So if you want the direct link, just go to the description box of this video and you'll get a direct link to the podcast. All right. Having said that, let's get into the topic I want to discuss. I told you guys, I mean, there's so many things I got running through my head that I want to do videos on, but I thought I'd focus on this one on sex magic and sex energy. All right. Let's talk about, the facts about this and the bullshit about it and the nonsense about it and the real spiritual essence of what real sex magic is. Okay? The sex magic, energy-wise, should never, ever be taken lightly. Okay? When you are doing sex magic, okay, there is such an influx of energies exchanged, especially when you're doing it with a partner. You've heard me say this, so this is going to be like a tutorial because these videos are about 30 minutes. So this is just going to get to some of the core concepts of it. The importance of selecting the right individual when you're doing sex magic with somebody else. They need to be of a certain level of intelligence, sound mind. They need to be compatible with you, number one. At least at your level or greater. You don't want to do sex magic with an individual spiritually that could have many toxic ways, may not be linked in spiritually, or may be doing it for the wrong reasons. We also have to understand the difference between sex magic and lust, right? There's a big difference between knowing how to fuel your sex magic with lust and passion, but it's not just about lust and passion. We just regular sex is just about straight fucking and passion, right? So we have to be able to clearly identify the difference when it's just straight fucking and sex, and when it's actually something more spiritual in nature. Now, sex magic is very powerful because when an orgasm is charged up, it can be a very powerful magical component or tool that can actually be the key ingredient to fuel your intent for the results that you are aiming or the outcome you desire. Okay? Sex magic can be used like you would, for an example, if you had an intent, something you're trying to accomplish. But it goes a little deeper because you're using the divine masculine and feminine energy through sex energy, through the power of charging an orgasm, for an example, because that orgasm can be charged up, as I said, with the intent. And in certain rituals, if it's a male and a female, it's timed, right? The two individuals, when they're trying to bring themselves to orgasm, time it. And sometimes, you know, it might take a little practice because that takes a lot of discipline. And both might be working towards the same goal. Both might have separate intents, but aligning it up with the ritual that they're doing together or jointly. There's a ritual that you guys have probably read or heard, the Infernal Union, which is the merging of Samael and Lilith. I've talked about this a few times. And the Infernal Union is like becoming like a Baphomet, right? And it's using the energy of Lilith and Samael, where they come together in union. Lilith is invoked, Samael is invoked. The individuals together, but first separately, are stimulating themselves and building up that sexual energy, that sexual passion. And there's more work done after the stimulation, because the stimulation, that's where the discipline comes in. You have to be able to build that up, but without being completely sucked in to the passion aspect of it, because that comes later. Then there's more. I'm just going through it briefly. Then there's more ritual work that's done at the altar with Lilith and Samael, and then the two fully have a full-blown session with each other and time that orgasm. I'm just giving you one example of a sex magic ritual, but both focused. Obviously, Lilith representing that feminine energy, and Samael representing that masculine energy. And it represents, because there's a connection to Baphomet, and Baphomet is clearly mentioned in the ritual, becoming like a Baphomet. Because Baphomet represents everything that Lilith and Samael represent when they come together. Okay? Totality, equilibrium, masculine, feminine energy, androgyny, right? The activation of the four elements, the activation, you see all this on the Baphomet, right? The activation of the pineal, right? Fire, wind, air, water, earth, all represented in the Baphomet. Rulership. We see the androgyny breasts of it. We see the breasts of a female. We see the go face of a man, right? This is a powerful occult alchemical symbol, but when you take it into the spectrum or arena of sex magic, it takes on a whole different perspective. Now, some lay and actually perform this ritual or the sex act on a big Baphomet pentagram, which is a significant other. Okay, there's many ways it can be done. Different methodologies, but staying in line with what the intent is. But the discipline that comes in, even though there's passion, there's sexual energy, and there's lust and pleasure, there's also high levels of spirituality. There's also where the practitioner has to be able to discipline themselves, build themselves up sexually to get that orgasm fueled so they can meet that common goal or goals that they're trying to accomplish in the ritual. Now, also, let's talk briefly about sexual fluids, using that as a ritual tool. So, because we're going to talk about a couple different things and elements connected to sex magic. Some of the most powerful fluids, obviously sexual fluids, whether it's semen from a man or sexual fluids from a woman. Menstrual blood is a very powerful elixir or fluid, which can be utilized for many different things, to anoint sigils, to anoint talismans, jewelry, to consecrate certain things, especially working with Lilith. Sexual fluids, sexual energy, menstrual blood are powerful magical elements that connect you to the goddess Lilith. Okay, so if you know how to now again, when that, like, say you're doing solo sex magic, right? For an example, if you're doing solo sex magic and you have an orgasm or you release, that is a very powerful spiritual tool you can use, again, for altar tools, talismans, jewelry, sigils, anything that is related or connected to your magical work, because that's your vital life force, your essence. Now, we know blood, and doing it safely, is the most powerful elixir you can offer, because it contains the very essence. A woman's menstrual blood is very powerful because she is linked in to the cycle of the moon, and she connects to all of those lunar energies. Her menstrual blood has a higher component of sexual power than just normal blood. And this is why some who may not understand the occult don't understand sometimes why that is used. Okay? I'm not talking about those that know. I'm talking about those that may not know. Okay? So all of these things are components or elements of sex magic, using sexual fluids. But I want to get back to some of the stuff I was saying just a short while ago. If you are going to do sex magic with an individual, be very selective. Because if you are stronger, more spiritually than them, you will dominate that person's DNA and RNA. And then if you're not clear on your intent, you may not have any interest to continue engaging with them on a sexual level, and it might be hard to get rid of them, because we use this term over the years called pussy whipped, right? Or dick whipped for a female, whatever you want to call it, where a person can't get over another person for whatever reason. And it could be a relationship, they could be getting treated like shit, and we always say, why does that person want to stay with somebody that treats them like that? Well, there's more of a spiritual explanation to that. There's an energy or a connection that they can't release from themselves. And when you're with an individual who is more dominating as far as spiritually, mentally, intellectually, and has perfected their spiritual craft as a magician, a sorcerer, a vampire magician, any of those things, 9 out of 10 times. That's why I said in the beginning, that's why you need to be compatible to a certain degree. Look, I'm not saying you're going to find somebody that's going to be identical to you, etc. And men, don't be egotistical to be afraid to do it with a powerful woman on your level or slightly above you. Don't feel like you got to be the macho man. I'm not saying find somebody that's way more superior than you, but being on that same level and energy frequency is important, because a lot of shit can go wrong if you're not. Okay? A lot of things can happen that you don't want to happen, and you might develop a consistent problem that you don't want anymore. Okay? So you must be selective of who you share your bodily fluids with. Okay? Now, indulging in sex magic and sex energy also, when we look at it at the spectrum, sometimes some rituals are just for pure lust and passion to really explore your sexual desires and energies. that must be done with discipline too. Okay, that must be done with, again, first and foremost, let me make this clear. You don't want to just go sleeping around everywhere, because then you got to worry about diseases and other things going on. But if you are going to go to that next level, let's per se, and explore your sexuality, make sure you do it in a productive way. Now, another thing when it comes to sex magic and sex energy, something in the West that we have been indoctrinated with for many years, right? It's becoming a bit more open now, but a while back, just sex wasn't really talked about openly. It started with our bodies. Like, we didn't really, or were never taught a while back, about the anatomy of our bodies, right? It's changed a bit today. I say a bit because there's an agenda of how it's talked about today, but that liberated aspect of how we work with sex magic on this path is almost taboo to even think about, because of how they programmed a lot of people at a young age with shame, right? With, there's just certain things you don't do or you don't, talk about. It's why a lot of relationships and marriages fail, because you will find out that most people in relationships, sometimes, I'm talking about on exploring their sexual energy, don't explore it to the fullest, because they might feel that they might have desires that they might be afraid to share with their partner, and vice versa. And sometimes in that process of not doing it, you might find out later your partner may or may not have been in alignment with that. Now, it's foolish to think that your partner might have the exact sexual desires that you have. Might be some similar ones, but you're never going to know if you don't communicate. Because keeping a healthy, productive relationship is not just about going through the routine of sex. Okay? If it's just the same old routine, you lay there, turn on, I get on top, you get on the bottom, that shit's going to get played out after a very short period of time. So that's where the communication comes in. So to keep that sexual energy, especially when you've been with somebody for a long time, right? You've got to keep that sexual energy going on a multitude of levels. So keeping it harmonized, there's two aspects to look at. Keeping it harmonized is having methodologies on just the pure passion and lust side of it, but also creating spiritual work on the spiritual side of it, right? That's how it grows on both sides. But let's not get it twisted. We also must be clear when sex is just sex, right? And be clear on the difference. Well, if I'm doing a spiritual sex magic ritual, this is a little more than just sex. Okay, this is a little more than just satisfying my desires or quenching my lust, right? We need to understand that. We need to also understand solo sex magic is also a powerful tool. Okay? Come on, we're grown adults, right? Solo sex magic is an important aspect too when performed right. Now, you will find, especially with a lot of the dark gods and goddesses of the void and abyss, all of them, Lucifer, Blau, there's a natural sexual energy to a lot of those. This is why some people will describe, you may not be doing a ritual sometimes that has direct elements of sex magic or sex energy into it, but you tap into sex energy sometimes when you're doing these rituals, and that may not even been focused on that, because that's how powerful sexual energy is. Now, let's also talk about being devoured when you have a lack of discipline or you can't control your passion and your lust. And let me also address this. You got a lot of people that come on this path, and will, especially more so dudes, let me make this clear, that will use sex magic, as a game to try to pull females, and we don't want to do that, okay? Because when you have that underlying intent that'll come back to bite you in the ass. Okay? And some people, let's make this clear. Some people come on this path because that's their main objective or their main goal. They think they're gonna come on this path and be some sex wizard or something. Stop. You're gonna run into the wrong person who know their shit, and you're gonna get your feelings hurt. Okay? You're gonna get your feelings smashed. So don't come on this side with that foolishness, because you will run up against somebody that's really locked in tune and know what the fuck's going on. You're gonna play yourself. Okay? So explore your sexuality. Indulge in some of your desires with discipline and reason. But as I said many times over the years in different classes and videos, if you have no control over your sexual energy, you will get completely devoured and destroyed by it. And I mentioned before in the past with Lilith, and I talked about that in a few videos back, for an example. Don't be a male practitioner who treats women like shit and disrespects women and abuses them on all different levels, and then try to go work with a goddess like Lilith. She will drive a man sexually insane. And I've seen this happen to several different men over the years, where they just become sex addicts and they never can get enough. She will sexually drive you insane, because remember, she is the protector of female women, children, right? She is the protector, and she leashes out against those that are very disrespectful to the feminine. Okay? And that's a message to all you male practitioners. Okay, don't get it twisted. Because we know how wrathful Lilith can be. We know how twisted and intense and violent her rage can be when you come at her the wrong way. And if you've ever been tortured or devoured through your sex energy, it's not a pleasant thing. Okay, I know there's a lot of other videos over the years, people talk about tantra and all the light, fluffy shit. I'm going to give it to you straight chaser, because nobody's really going to talk about it on this level. And I go even more intent and deeper on the Patreon. I'm not going to... I'm being as direct as I can here, to a degree. It goes even deeper than that, but I won't go that level just wide open here like that. But I will be straight to the point. It is not a pretty sight to watch a man become slave to his sexual energy. Anybody for that matter, but in this case. So harness and protect your sacred sexual energy. Be selective. Okay? That's, as a god or a goddess, you must be responsible for your actions. So if you are going to partake in this type of spiritual work, you must be very knowledgeable of how you do it. Okay? You must be very aware of how you do it. You must be very conscious and aware of who you select to do it with, because you can't just do it with anybody. Okay? And there's a connection, regardless if it's just once, a few times, or something you're going to keep doing consistently, where you develop a relationship with this person. Okay? There will always be a bond or a connection there to a certain degree. So ask yourself, do you want to be bonded on a certain level spiritually and energy-wise with that person? Okay? Gotta ask yourself that, because there will always be some level of connection there. Whether it's a one-time thing, or it's a thing you've done a few times, or it's a thing you're going to continuously to do. You will be in a relationship with that person to a certain degree, because you've made a connection, not just on the physical. That's why I'm saying that. You're making a connection on the spiritual plane with that person. And you're making a connection with the very essence and energy that is contained within that person. And if you don't know who that person is, and they're fucked up and they're toxic, and you start tapping in to their spiritual energy using sex magic, you could be tapping into a lot of toxic shit that you don't want. And it could be the reverse too. You could be tapping into a very connected person, and it could be a very powerful experience for you, and it could be a very uplifting and beneficial for you. So there's the flip side. I'm not going to make it all sound negative and be scared and be cautious, but I would be smart. be wise, because I do hear how in certain circles that this is done recklessly, and that's not a good thing. With no discipline, that people are all over the place with it, too loose. Okay? That's a bad thing. So when I say protect your sacred sexual energy, really you should protect your spiritual power. You shouldn't just let anybody be connected to you like that, connected to your spiritual energy, whether it's through sex magic or mainstream ritual work. It's like same thing when we do group rituals here. We don't just want anybody in that circle, because you're inviting that energy in that circle. This is why, if you've been on the Patreon for the last few years, when you get the instructions for the ritual at the end of the month, what do I say? I always put in them instructions: come in a positive frame of mind. Don't come in a state of anger, emotionally mad, depressed, or out of character, because you can transfer that energy in that circle. So any type of ritual, group setting, whether it's just 2 or more, there's a transferring of that energy. You don't want anybody that's in a fucked up, state of mind, or you're connecting to aspects of that individual that may not be productive to your spiritual energy, and then it could, harm or damage your frequency. It's no different when you're around somebody that drains you, right? We all know people who could be somebody who complains all the time, or they're just negative in your opinion, or just like they got a vibe that just doesn't resonate with you. Imagine engaging in sexual activity with a person like that you didn't know out the gate anyway, right? So protect your sacred sexual energy. Do not just share that with anybody. Now look, when you find the right mix, and you find a person or persons that you could just look, sometimes it's just straight up fucking and getting your freak on, but sometimes it's spiritual. When you got that combination of both, then look, you hit the jackpot, right? Cultivate that, let that grow, work with it, harness it, because you could do many things with that. But I've seen it go south on some people. They got involved with somebody who wasn't all mentally there, and then they realize, okay, nah, I'm not feeling this, and they already put it on that person, and then they can't get rid of that person, because their DNA, their spiritual power was way more powerful than the lesser or weaker individual. So when you are exchanging sexual energy, as I wrap this up soon, which I'll be at my destination shortly, be wise, be disciplined, be knowledgeable, be understanding. Okay? And when I say be understanding, understand what you're dealing with. Okay? Don't be careless. Don't just and look, let me say this, very important. Sex magic is one of those spiritual practices on this path. That's not something you want to just dibble dabble in and experiment and see if it's going to work, because it's not really something you can take back. When I say take back, it's one of those things, if you can control it and get it to where you need it to be, that's beneficial for you, that's what I'd recommend. It's not one of the things you can try and say, all right, it didn't work, it was fucked up, wasn't feeling it, because sometimes it's a little deeper than that. Okay? When it comes to this, when it comes to sharing that sacred sexual energy, right? Because some of that you can't get back. And always remember, you're giving something of yourself, and it's a little more taxing on the female, because by nature she is an internal creature, where a man is an external creature. The sex energy takes out of both, but it takes more from a woman than it does from the male. Okay? And I'm not just talking about on a physical level. So you might say, well, no, I'm not just talking about physically. I'm talking mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Right? You must be prepared for that. So do your due diligence. Be smart. And look. And let me say this to some of you dudes and females who think you come on this path and you did some ritual work and you were told you got the biggest dick or you got the 14 karat gold punani and all that. Stop. Okay, because you're gonna come down that path and get your feelings hurt too. Okay, because then you got a group of individuals where everything on this path is sexual energy. Sex this, sex that, sex. To me, that's a person who's got sexual deficiencies. They got sexual mental problems, right? They got issues they ain't dealt with on a sexual level. When it's all about sex, I just want to make that clear. That's not good either. There's something wrong. Though there's elements of sexual energy connected to a lot of the work we do on this path, but when you run across an individual that's all it is, be careful. That individual got an agenda and they got serious issues, sexual hang-ups that they have not dealt with. All right? So I want to make that crystal clear too. Be cautious of that. Again, this is just a quick tutorial covering some of the foundational aspects of sex magic and sex energy. I'll visit this some more later videos down the road. This was just what was on my mind. I said as I drive home, I said let me talk about this because I've mentioned it a few times. I said, well, let me talk about this and just go in on some foundational aspects of sexual energy and sex magic and protecting your sexual energy and things of that nature. Take it serious. I mean, protect your spiritual power, period, but protect your sacred sexual energy. All right, having said that, you guys know where to get at me for spiritual rituals. I'm sorry. I was waving to the security guard. I got distracted. Not to get at me for spiritual rituals. I caught myself on that. You know where to get at me for spiritual reading or consultation? Shoot an email, khnum19@gmail.com. If you are interested in signing up for my classes, go to the official Primordial Chaos Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Join Tier 3. That will give you access to the 3 private classes I do on Patreon every month for Patreon members only and for the monthly group ritual that we do together. All right? I will see you guys soon on the next video. Infernal blessings, and we will talk soon.